Meshi, action. Okay, so today I wanted to cover, we're going to go through the major muscle groups. We've looked at it before as an image, but now we're going to like put our hands and, yeah, put our hands on our body and like start to put that into your mind if you don't have it already. Usually a lot of the major muscle group terms, and we're on page 55 for this, I believe. The major muscle groups of the body, these are the terms that you'll use again and again and again and again and again, and you'll refer your students. Most people know what you're talking about that have done fitness classes, but sometimes people just like to smile and nod and agree with the teacher also. So you never know, because if you took the time and you were like, does everyone know where this is? Like maybe not everyone would raise their hands. So as a teacher, there's different ways that we can deliver this information to our students without having to take out a diagram and be like, this is this. And for the teachers, yes, we need this. But as yoga teachers to the general public, we will kind of give this information in a less overt way, in a yin style delivery, we could say. Um, by when I say my traps, I will put my hands, my trapezius, or when I'm saying rhomboids, I will kind of like, now we can put our hands here. So we're going to do that today. And we're going to do that today. Here, I'm just bringing open my Ken Hub website piece here. So this is not important. I'm just going to try to photograph. It's not important for you to see the page right yet, but I will have some sharing screen. Or you know what? Why not? Why not share the screen and we can be all on the same page, but where is this? Oh, okay. Tamam. Regions of the body. Oops. Let's see here. Okay. So, very basic, the regions of the body to start with. So we're going to kind of zoom in with regions of the body or zoom out, start zoomed out. And then we're going to zoom into the muscles. And then we're going to zoom even in more to the bones. And then we have practice. All right. So this will be when we're in live in person. I've been talking about the upcoming quiz. Neeruz is going to get to you with some other details of another quiz. But when we're in person, we'll be doing a lot of these like identification, just rapid fire. This, like, what's that childhood rhyme? Knees, shoulders, what? Head, shoulders, knees, and toes. That's right, head. Exactly. So pretty much it's like that right now. So when we refer in anatomical position, head, we got it, right? The trunk of the body. So our torso, you can also refer to it as the trunk. Abdomen, you can think of it as all of your abs. Remember that often the world thinks of the abs as very linear. When you're saying abdomen, it is referring a little less to the core and a little more to the abdominis. So transverse abdominis and rectus abdominis, which is like the eight pack or a more superficial layer of muscles. We have the back, all kulubak. So from the bottom of the neck all the way to the top of the ass is your back. And even you could say into your butt cheeks is still kind of your back, that fascia that comes up and like if I bring my hand like on my thigh, my IT band, and like bring it up over my cheek and into my back, my fibers, my fascia and the fibers and the pockets of my muscle all are connecting into this area of the low back, especially, and the very dense areas of the thoracolumbar fascia. So, going into a little bit anatomy terms, thoraco from thoracic, and then lumbar from lumbar, and then the fascia is over those two areas. So you'll see a lot in Latin, in German, which we won't go into German, but in these names of the muscle groups, they'll just kind of like lengthen them or put them together. So the thoracolumbar fascia, that's all kind of goes down through the glutes, down through the IT bands. So if your glutes are super tight, It's going to also affect your back. Shoulder, the shoulder is also part of the back. So these are parts are overlapping and not necessarily isolated or segregated. See, shoulder, elbow, we know it. Wrist, we know it. Lower limb. And it's your legs, like I guess. The lower limbs, upper limbs. Limbs are, yeah, your extremities. Hip region. So the whole hip basin. You can again into the glutes is also included in the hip region. The hip bones, the pubic bone, the tailbone could all be inside the hip region. The super inner thigh, the groin. Hip region is again a very superficial, zoomed out term for this. The knee, we know it. The ankle, the neck, we know it. Thoracic region, that's what we were saying. Thoracic, you can just remember it. It's the piece of the spine or the trunk that has the ribs on it. The thoracic cage is another term they'll use for this. Pelvic region, same as hip region, but hip region, you could say it's even more on the outside, the glutes, the piriformis, glute medius, glute max. All of these muscles surrounding would be more hip region. And then when I say pelvic region, I would be thinking more of like the pelvic basin, the two iliac crest and the sacrum or the low back and the tailbone and the little pubic symphysis. I don't know if men have it the same as women, but like that's the part right here in the front of the pelvis. This is the part that when we give birth, if you give birth, like you become hyperflexible and that part kind of becomes more gelatinous and opens so the baby can come down through the pelvic channel. Upper limb, arms. I wouldn't say refer to the neck or head as an upper limb. It would be arms. And then upper limb and then arm, forearm, which is the lower arm, you can think. Hand, thigh, gluteal region. So gluteal region has like crossed through several of these also. So just remember, if you think of the body like real estate, the glutes is like a very prime real estate. It has a lot of functionality that's required for the body to work well. Leg, and then your foot. So this is like the most zoomed out that most general public will understand easily. Oh, did it log me out here? 1 second. So now, oh, don't do this. Now, here, I'm going to move my little screen. So now if we go on to page 55, if you're not already there, anatomy. So the SCM, sterna, where's my typing? P-L-E-I, sternocleidomastoid. Where is that? So this would be in the regions of the head and neck. I don't really want to go into the whole video right now. It's this guy. Where is it? Ah. So your sternocleidomastoid or the SCM muscle. So if I go like this and you see this like more ropey one that kind of runs down the side here, I'll try to turn, or here, I'll take this headphone. So this guy, and it's the one that runs down and connects in by the collarbone. We also have that runs down this side also. This can cause a lot of tension in the jaw. A lot of times they'll do a release, they'll go inside of your jaw to put pressure from the on down on some muscles from the inside. But you can get a nice massage here in yin. And also when we're doing, yeah, mostly yin poses, because in the hatha and the active style, we're going to be like upright. And I'm never going to like drop my neck like this. I'm always going to be going straight up and then arching over to the side. and meanwhile keeping the collarbone separated. So sternocleidomastoid, if you're feeling stress, you can also come from like behind your ear, this point, and just come down. And this also helps relieve the sinus. So you could brush out and then down. So if you feel yourself coming down the SCM, oof, you might even feel like you need to swallow, like the feeling of that you might need to swallow. So this is just helping clear your sinus. And also, if anyone's doing face yoga, even though I wasn't feeling good, I still did my face yoga today. And we had an exercise. It's actually face hit, not yoga. It's like a high intensity interval. It's really cool. So we put our hands and we pulled down slightly and just lifting and turning the chin. I'm kind of rainbowing the chin up side to side, and I can really feel maybe along the bottom of my neck for sure, but I can feel it pulling, especially when I add that little bit of pressure down, when I take my chin over to one shoulder and I try to keep that shoulder open, of course, and I just hold. It gives me a little more resistance. And breathe up and take it the other side. So most of your clients, most of your people, and yourselves will have tightness in the sternocleidomastoid. And it's great to just like, if you're feeling too ropey, to just massage it down. But be very careful in this area because, like I said, your lymph also runs through here and it's very delicate. When you're doing lymphatic drainage, it doesn't have to be a very like, it's not a deep tissue massage. It's it's like a superficial. So you, even if you have a nice moisturizer, if you did your like face routine and you just take your moisturizer down the neck, that's also very just nice and stimulating and can help release a little bit. So the SCM, people will often, people who clench their jaw at night, if you clench your jaw and just feel like what's going on when you do that. So people who clench their jaw have usually super tight through this area of the body. And then now our modern problems of our posture, because we're on our phone chronically and we have the forward neck, it becomes overstretched and then it doesn't have enough strength to hold the head. So sternocleidomastoid is very important. So then going down the body, where is this? Scalenes anterior. Anyone know where the scalenes are? They're very cool muscles. Scalenes. So the scalenes are going to be kind of under them, and they're little guys. Maybe we will watch this video, or maybe I'll leave it for later. So they go between the cervical vertebrae. So if we're going up cervical vertebrae, our next vertebrae, I don't know if you can see the skeleton is too high. Oh, there we go. So our cervical vertebrae, these guys, and then they have the little xiphoid process. That's the tip of the vertebrae. So like the vertebrae is kind of like this is it's shaped like this. My thumbs are the part that's like on the inside of my body, and then the back is this little pointy thing. So what gives us our shape of our spine. So when you run your hand down your neck, those are those little tips. That's the xiphoid process of the spine is what it's called. And then there's little muscles that connect to those and are kind of like a suspension bridge. It's really incredible. So you can see this photo right here. But if we look at this more dense photo, so see now we're under the sternocleidomastoid and it's like 1, 2, 3. So see, they're layered on top of each other, so they're even further down, and they go and they connect. Here's the spine piece to the ones like where my knuckles would be. So they connect there and then they come down through here. So again, it's like part of your suspension for holding your neck in place. Often, you will have like a knot in the scalenes, and then often we think it's sternocleidomastoid. So again, that stretch where we windshield the head side to side can be really good. And just making sure to try to keep movement. Same thing, the brushing down is a nice way to loosen them. But if you go to like put your fingers in your neck, kind of in there, and it's impassable, it's going to be a mix of the scalenes and the sternocleidomastoid. Most people know it as SCM, the first one we covered, because it's a long word. And usually their chiropractor or body worker will tell them they have a problem with it. So then the scalenes, we had the posterior, we have middle, and then we had anterior. So again, to go back into our anatomy terminology, anterior is to the front, middle is middle. You guys got it, I'm sure. And posterior is the one more towards the back. So it's also not just, it's also the most deep. So the scalenes, our most posterior one, is also the most deep. And our anterior one, our one in the front, is also most superficial. So you won't really need to say scalenes, but if someone told you, hey, I have like low rotation, my massage therapist said this, sometimes your students will surprise you with a term. Like, where'd you learn that one, guy? It's because their doctor told them to be careful, so then you know how to like handle that or telling them when to back off. A lot of times students will know their own abilities, but oft sometimes not. You can just keep an eye. You can just keep an eye. Your trapezius or your traps, this is going to be one that people are always complaining about. So this guy here, and the superficial muscles of the back, maybe we'll stay on this page for a bit. So here, this green guy, let me move that over. So this is our trapezius. So see how that is all, and see in the center of the green how it's like lighter. If that was not colored green and it was like muscles and tissues, this right here, like on the darker green, it would be the red muscle. And then this like along the spine and this little diamond in the center is very dense fascia or connective tissue, that more white, gristly fascia. So it is a very superficial layer. If you put your hands just at the top of your back and you picture that triangle, and then you can take your hands kind of like out to the side. You can even squeeze your traps here. They're probably a little jacked, everyone's are at all times, and give yourself a nice little trap massage. The traps are going to be, again, they're very superficial layer of your back muscle. And this is going to be something that you observe a lot in students' posture when you're doing posture check or when you're getting them to posture check. So, like in my studio here that you girls have been in and will be in, I have mirrors. In a lot of yoga studios, there's not any mirrors. And so sometimes when you're like, okay, stand in mountain pose, both shoulders open, someone might have their shoulder like this and they don't know because they just don't have the awareness. And you're like, yo, your shoulder, and then you can cue them verbally or physically. And and they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. Also, for like when you're standing in mountain, your feet being parallel or not. Uh, for my own self, I knew one foot I used to have it just like turned out. And in my perception, the perception of where my body starts and ends, to me, it felt like it was straight. But it wasn't until I actually looked. So sometimes what we have tuned in our mind is not accurate. So a mirror or a second set of eyes is super helpful. But the traps is super overworked in most people and overstretched in our rounding. Here I have like a hoodie on, but in our rounding forward. So if I round my shoulders forward, we are constantly overstretched. If you feel that, like, so see how it goes. Here, I was gonna touch the screen. So see how it goes to the top. of the shoulder that way. So when I bring my shoulders forward to the front, I'm stretching that a little bit. But often we're very overstretched. It might feel good and a bit of relief to round, but often what we need is to contract that muscle towards the center of the spine. But because there is so much connective tissue and fascia, unless that you do very small, deliberate isolation exercises in this area, it's really hard to get a good engagement and a good squeeze. So what ends up happening is different areas of the body end up supporting our posture. So this is like holding us from up, the traps, when really, as we move down the muscles, you'll see we should be more suspended and held from like, again, the core and the thoracic, because this is sitting on top. Its action is to just have this broadness. So when I say open that chest, open the collarbones, part of it will be your traps like engaging and kind of down and spreading out. Like, because look again, look at the shape. So often the shape that the muscle is has a lot to do with how it's to move also. So under the trapezius, maybe I have it in this page. Dun, 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 dun. No. No, that says super. Mm-mm. And if you have a problem in your trapezius, it's probably stemming from the rhomboids. Let's see. These guys. So these are more deep from the traps. The trap is on top of this. See these guys? They are down in your between your shoulder blades, and they are the guys who actually, if we put our arms out to the side and we bring our shoulders together, kind of squeeze our shoulders, but keeping the rib cage strong, like this pulling down action, squeezing. That's how you're going to squeeze those little rhomboids in between. So squeeze. And I can go like arms straight up like Superman arms and then squeeze and squeeze. So how to say? So when I do that squeeze, I'm engaging also my traps for sure. But you want to be aware of if it's only the traps engaging. I don't know if you remember in our week 1 together, we did a little bit of movements of the shoulder blade. We rolled the shoulder blade. And then I said explore having your lats, the lower torso, move it for you and not the upper traps grabbing it and moving it for you like that. So when we're doing any type of shoulder movement, trying to have the traps will be involved, of course, but trying to have them not just clenching and have it a more deep movement. So when we want to improve strength and movement quality, it's about trying to get those deep layers of muscles to fire and not just the superficial, because then our strength is coming from a deeper place and it moves the skeleton, like carves its shapes more in space than more superficial pulling and lifting and dropping of the bones, but more of like a directional, strong. Um, so yeah, the rhomboids, often people when they go to upper back massage therapy, they're going for that. And it's hard to get into because it's under. So often people would go for cupping. If you're going for a massage in the rhomboids, you would probably get cupping in that area. So next we have pectoralis. We're coming to the front of the body, the pectoralis major. So this is the front, the chest of the body, and this is like more defined on men, of course. Women, depending on your breast size, can be harder to also access this. And women with very larger breasts experience a lot of scar tissue in their pectoralis because of just um, the weight of the tissue pulling on that. Even though the fat is divided in pockets, it still is like long, especially ladies who end up getting breast reduction or things like that. It's because it's like literally heaviness pulling on their muscles. So if you see in the, oh, I don't have a mouse, I had. So if we're looking at this little picture from the collarbone, I have the arrow and I'm going down to the top just under the shoulder bone here. So remember I was telling you about some of the pec major. It connects to the arm bone in there. And do you see how it's kind of like folded over on itself? So it kind of is like folded down. When we open the arm like this, it lifts the muscle. So the muscle is like in my down position, the muscle is like this, folded down. And then when I open it, it goes like this and opens it up. So there, when I have my arm down, it's folded down. And then when I open, it stretches. Do you feel that? And so that's what happens if we get too tight through here, which we do, because it gets closed. So if it's not more open and the muscle taking space, then we close. We also close again because we said we're overstretched through the trapezius a lot of times and the rhomboids, and we're not like strengthened enough. And to have the width, the muscles don't fill the width of the chest to again hold it this way. So also if we're tight through those little straps right there, we can call them, it's going to roll the arms forward. So let me angle that a little. So if I have my palms turned out, and if I think of turning my palms in and rolling my arms forward, then that's the position that a lot of people are in. So that's why we say roll the shoulders open and back, and think of broadening the collarbone. So we have the rolled forward and we have the rolled back. You can really feel through pec major. And what kind of exercises we would do for the pectoralis major? Yoga, it's any of our planks. Anytime we bring our arms up, we're really trying to hold from here. Stretching is usually super important before strengthening. So cobra poses, active ones where I'm lifting and engaging the back to open through here, opening the arm against the wall, opening through here. And then if you're going to do strengthening, it would be like on your back with weights, chest press, straight up would be one to help open the chest and help balance a little bit. So when they say pectoralis major, that's the one they mean. Pectoralis minor, let's see if they have a picture for me on the same page, because that will be way better. That would be way easier. Oh, here's a under the with the nipple, the breast under it. Those are not very helpful photos. Ah, this is helpful. So along this, some of the muscle connection, we have lateral pectoral nerve. We don't need to know this, but just so you think about while you're thinking and making your mental image of the muscles, that there's a lot of nerves that run through there also. So when you can get a pinched nerve in these areas, often there's a lot of also press points in these areas and lymphatic drainage in these areas. So just don't forget about the nerves. These will be some main guys. So the yellow ones coming from the neck are kind of like some main superhighways, and it's coming down through there. And then there's this guy. So these are blood moving. So we won't go into that right now. Okay, Tamam. Pectoralis major minor. Don't need to know major minor. Minor is under it again. But just know pecs or pectoralis, the chest muscle. Latissimus dorsi. This one is a big one. So this one is really big. So it's AKA the lats or latissimus but when latissimus dorsi, they will usually say the lats. So remember, we were talking about all those layers of the thoracolumbar fascia. Down in there is a lot right here also. So the lats are, again, if you go into that Superman position and not thinking of squeezing the shoulder blades so tight together like that, but more thinking of around, like I'm going to kind of pull back more wide this time. And then I feel kind of this holding in my around my rib cage. So just experiment with that. I'm taking my hands forward and then I'm just kind of like squeezing, and I'll push my chest forward a little bit and I'm trying to feel this wrap of the muscle. Also, if you want to have your hands there and you can still squeeze and squeeze the shoulders back, just feel through your lats. The lats was also the cue of when we did that shoulder work and opening of not just having my traps pick my shoulder up and move it, but also trying to have it being moved from my lats and activate that muscles through there. So how can we get in there and wake it up if we didn't? Like these ones, these pull down broad and wide and feeling this wrap happening. And then also, yeah, any of those, this wrapping wide. When we go into our side bends and opening to give relief in this area, to open, we're activating our side bends, we're lifting. If I pull my arm back in, that elbow on one side, pull it in, I can feel that squeezing in the lat. So if I open my side bend, and then I'll kind of contract myself to come back up and keep bringing my elbow, I can really feel those lats engaging. And then so on the other side. So really, again, thinking of that, your verticality, your tubularness with the lats. The more that you can develop your lats, and they look very nice aesthetically on the body, defined lats also. Really lovely. And more defined lats. It will also help support your posture from the bottom up. Again, also we're going to go all the way down to the feet, of course, but if you're finding that your shoulders, your trapezius, anything that we've done, your SCM, the scalenes, all of this stuff, if you're finding it's like very tight, chances are your lats are super underdeveloped and they're not pulling their weight. Literally, they're not holding their weight literally. And it's kind of a part of the body, especially for women, because we end up being like more skinny in the upper body. It ends up being super underdeveloped. So some special attention for these pull downs are very useful. And then side planks, planks, anything that you feel that like strong engagement helps a lot. Um, Serratus anterior. Mm-mm-mm. So serratus anterior is again more under the lats. Let me see if it can. I don't really want to go into the video that much. Hey. Okay, so they're a little more like now, the serratus anterior. Serratus is because like a serrated knife, a serrated knife is jagged. So look at this, it's quite jagged looking, yeah. So they have it, that's where a root of the word serratus. So you can think it's under the lats. And then it's more detailed. So this is the muscles connecting to all of our ribs. So that's what gives those muscles that kind of shape and form. And then it's the same exercises for activation as those other ones, the squeeze and just feeling the really wrap of the ribs. And I mean, actually, I should have mentioned all of these ones will be activated from the deep breathing. So when you think of breathing in deeply, and letting the breath come to like the top, and then just seeing if you can take a little more breath in and the exhale, squeezing the air out. And then you could also get this like inside body to outside body feeling before you do your pull downs or planks or engagements, starting with your mindful breathing and opening and closing. And I think I told you the anecdote before when my first yoga weekend that I ever did, I came home and I was like, oh my God, my lungs are so hurting. And it wasn't my lungs, it was like the muscles of my between my ribs, probably some of these serratus anterior, but also other the interstitial muscles and the ones in between all of my ribs. Um, oh, here's a complicated muscle that causes a lot of problems. Well, it doesn't cause the problems, it's just very flexible. The shoulder or the rotator cuff. It's probably our most flexible joint and muscle capsule. Oopsie. I think I will play this video so we have it on the thing. It's really complicated and easy to injure. And if you have people like your own age in your yoga class, chances are they've had an injury. Anyone who's done sports has probably had a shoulder injury at some point. Here, I'll open this.
The shoulder joint is the most flexible joint in the human body, allowing us to engage in a variety of activities such as swimming, tennis, and gymnastics. However, increased mobility means decreased joint stability and makes the shoulder joint particularly susceptible to dislocation. We have various ways of reducing the risk of dislocation of the shoulder joint, one of which is through the muscles that we're going to be talking about today, the muscles of the rotator cuff. Before we begin, I'd like to give you a quick overview of what we're going to be talking about in this tutorial. So firstly, we're going to be looking at the bones that make up the shoulder joint, and they form bony framework that our muscles attach to. And then I'll give you a little introduction to the muscles of the rotator cuff as a whole, before we go on to look at each muscle individually, discussing their origin, insertion, function, and innervation. Finally, we'll conclude our tutorial with some clinical notes about dislocation of the shoulder joint. Okay, so let's get started with the bones of the shoulder joint. So, as I mentioned earlier, the shoulder joint is the most mobile joint in the human body. This is down to the fact that it's a synovial ball and socket joint, which we can see here from an anterior perspective. The ball component of this joint is formed by the head of the humerus, which is a feature of the long bone in our arm, the humerus, whereas the socket component is formed by the glenoid cavity, which is part of the scapula, shoulder blade. And as such, the shoulder joint is also known as the glenohumeral joint. Okay, now that we're familiar with the bony framework that our muscles attach to, let's move on and have a look at the muscles of the rotator cuff. So let's get on to the details. Let's orient our focus. Have our lovely here. Let's go. See her from both sides. Tell this perspective. So if we remove this here, connective tissue, musculature and some surrounding musculature. Thank you. You can see her rotator cuff muscles. Posteriorly, we have the supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres minor. Anteriorly, we have the subspinatus. So now we're going to get any to stand side for us. And we're going to remove some of the surrounding soft tissues and the humerus. You can see all four rotator cuff muscles. Then we can see the supraspinatus, spinatus, teres minor posteriorly, and have the subscapularis anteriorly. A useful tool to help you remember the muscles of the rotator cuff is the phrase the head of the humerus sits in the glenoid cavity. Sits being a handy little mnemonic terms here. S standing for supraspinatus, I standing for infraspinatus, T standing for teres minor, and for subspinatus. Okay, so now that we know what we're looking at, let's give you some information about these muscles there. So generally, the muscles of the rotator cuff originate from the scapula and they insert at the humerus, which is at this point here. As for their functions, these muscles work together to reduce the risk of dislocation by stabilizing the shoulder joint. Essentially, they help keep the head of the humerus in its correct position within the bone and also, as the name suggests, the cuff muscles have a major role in the shoulder. So now that we're familiar with the rotator cuff muscles as a whole, let's look at each muscle individually, discussing the origin, insertion, flexion, and inflation. So the first muscle that we're going to talk about is supraspinatus, which you can see here highlighted. So it suggests this muscle originates from supraspinous fossa, which is a shallow depression body of the scapula, but the spine goes on to insert here the brachial tube. So when the supraspinatus contracts, initiates abduction of the arm and shoulder joint. So rotating cuff muscle vigorously stabilizes shoulder joints. And of course, in order for this muscle to perform its functions, it requires innervation, means the supraspinatus is elevated by the suprascapular, which arises from the superior trunk or brachial plexus. Inferior to the spine of the scapula, we find the infraspinatus muscle. This muscle originates from spinous muscle, like the supraspinatus. The infraspinatus is responsible for lateral rotation of the shoulder joint, and also stabilizes. And like the supraspinatus, this muscle is innervated by the suprascapular nerve, which we can see here. So the next muscle of the rotated cuff that we're going to be talking about is the minor muscle. It originates from the lateral border of the scapula, then runs, as you can see, obliquely upwards laterally to insert at the greater tubercle of the humerus. Contraction of this muscle results in lateral rotation of the arm and the shoulder joint. Of course, it also stabilizes the shoulder joint. As for its innervation of teres minor, it's innervated by the you can see here. Okay, so in order to see the last muscle rotated, we need to change to an anterior view of the shoulder joint. Here we can see the subscapularis muscle, which originates from the subscapular flexor. Unlike its buddies, this muscle inserts a lesser tubercle. So you can see here. Subscapularis is responsible for medial rotation of the arm and shoulder joint and also stabilizes the shoulder joint. When it comes to the innervation of the subscapularis muscle, this muscle is innervated by upper and lower subscapular nerves to branches of the posterior. Okay, so as we come towards the end of our tutorial, we should now be feeling comfortable with muscles of the cuff. Let's move on to discuss some notes related to dislocation shoulder joint. So as I said at the start of the tutorial, shoulder joint is the most flexible joint of the human body, which means that it's particularly vulnerable to dislocation because we have ways to reduce the risk of dislocation, such as our rotated cuff muscles. It's a pretty strong force to pop this joint out of the socket. Therefore, it's normally caused by a fall or a collision with another person object. So most people dislocate their shoulder while playing a contact sport such as rugby or while undertaking sports that have potential for frequent high impact falls such as gymnastics. However, in older individuals, it can also be caused by falling on outstretched hands. Most shoulder dislocations involve anterior displacement of the humerus, which we can see here is X-ray. So over here we can see the head of the humerus, behind it we can see the glenoid cavity of the scapula. Symptoms of dislocated shoulder include intense pain, ability to move the joint, and visible deformation of the shoulder joint. In terms of treatment, we can use a procedure called reduction, where the doctor rotates the arm until it goes back to support. Patients damage soft tissues when they dislocate their shoulder. They need surgery to them. Recovery requires rest and pain medication, as well as physiotherapy to improve strength and mobility. It can take up to 3 to 4 months to recover fully from a dislocated shoulder. Okay, so before we bring our tutorial to a close, let's quickly summarize what we've learned today. So we started our tutorial with talking about the bones of the shoulder joint, which are humerus and scapula. Then we talked about the muscles of the rotator cuff as a whole, before looking at each muscle individually, discussing their origin, insertion, function, activation. Finally, we finished up our tutorial with some clinical notes about dislocation of the shoulder joint. So that brings us to the end of our tutorial on the muscles of the rotator cuff. I hope you enjoyed it.
All right. Cool. So there's a lot there. The shoulder and the rotator cuff. It's highly, highly mobile. Another time people can injure themselves, the shoulder popping out in downward dog. Anytime you want to do a handstand against a wall, like handstand. Also shoulder stand if you don't line yourself up properly. So yeah, making sure that the shoulders are sitting firmly where they belong, keeping that like shoulders plugged on the back, and then all of the other muscles we've discovered until this point, trying to have them as balanced as possible to have that. Okay, now into the upper arm, the deltoids, the biceps, the triceps. So this is like, how much of these do I want? The deltoid. So on our shoulder, if I lift my arm, I feel like the top of my shoulder engaging. This is the deltoid muscle. The deltoid, you want to be careful that, just like I've been saying about all of them, it's a superficial muscle. So if you find the deltoid activating to lift the arm too much, you're lifting your arm from the wrong place and you need to retrain that movement. So how would you even notice is like you would get fatigue in your arm here quicker rather than some fatigue. Like if I have my arm up and I do that engagement with the lat and the traps and the rhomboids, like just if I pull that and engage it on one side, it's not my deltoid or this little top muscle of my shoulder doing the work. It's like the whole back is doing the work. Um, for me, in my dancing days, I had a form of dance called American tribal style where the arms were very, very lifted. And I definitely jacked that part of my body more than once. Definitely more than once injuries from not engaging in the right spot. So that if you think here, this like when I lift my arm up this top of my shoulder, you kind of feel it like contracting in this way. This is the deltoid. And at the same time, if I take my arm up, like if I'm gonna just like take it straight up, so I engage different, I pull, I engage through that back, then the deltoid again is doing very little work, which we again, the more superficial the muscle, the less work it should be doing. So, how do I even work with that information? Is having, like I keep saying, having a good inner vision of your body so that you can engage from the right place. Because when you engage from the proper muscle group, it just feels good. You're like, I can feel it. It feels um, cohesive. It feels like everything's working together and it makes it feel more easy actually when you're engaging from the right muscles. At first, it might feel awkward and not, but then once you again retrain the body, and that's what we'll be doing with a lot of their information, hopefully. Um, Next, we'll go into the bicep, just into the arm. So if we're doing, oh, sorry, that's the lower leg. Bicep. There's another bicep. Biceps brachii. So this one, if I'm lifting weights this way, this one are biceps. And so you can see there have two insertion connection points with the connective tissue in your ligament. And then it kind of goes, the sac of this muscle, it's kind of two that form together. So two of them. And then it makes that contract this way, stretch it this way. So both sides are biceps. I think it's a pretty popular muscle. Got to get swole. And then triceps are on the back of the arm. So the back of our arm. So that little green, that's like seeing my arm from the back. And because the other one it had two little bunches. This one has three little bunches of how it contracts and comes together. So how do we activate the tricep? Here, I'll just come up. Is if my arm is next to my body and I go straight back. So if I hold the arm, I'm here. This part of the arm is working. I go straight back. It's tightening. So now it's stretched, this area, and now it's contracted. So those are the ones, if you're doing weights for this, you'll be here and lifting the weight by your side. When another time in yoga, when we're engaging it. We're engaging when we're down, belly down in the Sphinx variation of Cobra, or sorry, not Sphinx, but Cobra extended. My chest is down, my hands are under the shoulders. I'm arching, excuse me, and then I squeeze my elbows together. I can really feel my triceps engage as I slide my belly forward along the floor. So that would be engaging my triceps. And also any arm work in downward dog can stretch that area, but also engage. But yeah, thinking of strengthening the triceps. More biceps, triceps nicely balanced under the deltoid, so the deltoid isn't working so much. Then we have the wrist finger extensors, wrist and finger flexors. We'll get into that more detailed later. I just want to go over major muscle groups today. Rectus abdominis. Whoopsie, that's like your abs, your six pack. Dun, 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 dun. So see this shape. Rectus abdominis connects to the bottom of the sternum and then down into the pubic symphysis. So the pubic symphysis is your pubic bone, and then it's coming up to the sternum. So it's like this strap of abs that's on the front of the body. This is the most superficial layer of your abs, okay? So that's also why if it's very clearly defined, it's going to give you this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, do you even 10 pack, bro? And just like we've been saying, this is the one that is most superficial. And so it is more important to your whole structure of your body to develop the deeper muscles of the body. External abdominal oblique wall. So the obliques, it's so cool. So see all this fascia, that white connective tissue? So we have the um sorry, I have just here 1 second. I think I have a delivery 1 second. So we have the rectus abdominis on the outside. It will be on top of this layer of fascia. So all of this fascia, remember we talked about the thoracolumbar fascia of the back. All of this fascia also is wrapping on the front because why? We have this very important area of our body, our organs and our digestive organs here. So there's many, many, many layers of fascia to help protect these like vulnerable areas of the body. Here, I'm just gonna check if that was the delivery. I'm not sure they can send WhatsApp. Okay. So you can see that the muscles from trapezius, rhomboids, and lats and serratus anterior, how they're starting. We started kind of up at the upper front back of the body and they like wrap down and they would kind of join. So when I'm going into my internal and external obliques, I'll bring my hands to my waist. I'll bring my hands to my waist, and if I push my ribs to one side, slide my ribs to one side, it's my one side of my obliques engage, and I slide to the other side. So it's a push and pull muscle. It's connected to the ribs, and then it's also just connected to all this fascia layered on top of the diaphragm and on top of your digestion organs. When we tone the internal and external obliques, it kind of acts like a corset on the body and gives you that snatched waist look. If you're looking for hacks, then it's a lot of these. So poses that would really put this to work would be like triangle pose, the easy triangle pose, even with a block. where we have our torso tilted to the side, but we're holding, not in a side bend. We're like engaged holding. Um, yeah, also in the warrior, all the warriors actually, when we're holding our hands up with the abs engaged, that's going to be, but especially one in triangle pose, and then activating with like side crunches, obliques crunches, and side plank also. Wild thing doing that. Stretching it, it would be like half butterfly from yin, hanging easy forward fold, or side bend would be stretching it. Um, transverse, yes. So when would I use that terminology would be when I do all of my different ab group workouts, as your warm up, you can be like, today we're going to do a super like strong class with a lot of plank. So what should I do to like facilitate that in my warm up? Ab works. Today you can do an ab work focused class. I mean, people don't think of yoga with ab work, but it's a good warm up. So now the transversus abdominis, this is even more under. This is also kind of a part of your obliques as you see how it wraps on the body. And really, it's really wrapping. I don't know how else to say. But yeah, so this is even more deep and this is more of a corset. So again, during your deep breathing, feeling this expand and then that squeezing out with the air. This is what we're squeezing. When you think of that, and if I go on my exhale, I do shh and tighten. This is the transverse abdominis. So we have rectus abdominis running straight down, most superficial, external obliques, because they're more external than these ones. Transverse abdominis, and they wrap all the way around. It's this. Don't worry about that. Look at that. Yeah, all the like see how that wraps the body, these different muscle groups. It's just so cool. QL, quadratus lumborum. Now we're moving into the back body. Again, thinking wrapping. So we were wrapped in the front body. Now we're in the back body. So see this little guy here? Quadratus lumborum, the QL. Usually is how you'll hear it in a fitness class. So, what are some ways to stretch and strengthen this when we do cobra pose and we squeeze our glutes and extend through the back and we get that compression in the low back? Those muscles of the back are in contraction, lifting the back up, that low back. Often our back already has that curve, the lumbar curve. So these make the lumbar curve more contracting. So often when we do the tail curled under, when we're doing our cat and cow, stretch the exhale and we curl the pelvis under, stretch the low back. We're stretching the QL. It's nice to take that like cat that curled under, my tail's curled under. If I'm in the cat and cow or if I'm in table position, like hands down, knees down on the floor, and then I curl my tail under on my exhale. And I can shift a little bit to the side, shift a little bit to the side. And that's like if my spine is like here in my thumbs and my QL is on either side of the low back, I can stretch one side and then the other. Um, Another one that you would stretch in our circular joint warm up, in our six movements of the spine, rather, not the circular. Well, it's kind of the part of the same thing. In the six movements of the spine, when we're face down, table pose, and then we bend to one side, inhale straight, bend to the other side, inhale straight. That is another one to activate through that. Any forward fold, as long as you get that really solid tuck, it's going to be activating, stretching, and then the strengthening when we contract it. usually in this area, we need more stretching than anything. From our yin sequencing, it would be also half butterfly. You could stretch, that's one leg, like if your legs are folded in, cross leg kind of, and then extend one leg out, and then tilt over towards the leg that's extended out. And when you're stretching just above the hip towards the back quadrant of the body, that will be the QL. Ouch, I just hit my funny bone. That will be the, oh my God. Um, sorry. God, that will be the QL stretch if you're in there. Mostly we need more stretching than strengthening, but there will come to a point in your training, in your plans, whatever you're doing, that they'll need equal. Mostly for us to start, it will be um, stretching that we need to begin with. So the quadratus lumborum or the QL, and this famously popular next muscle. And we're going to watch a lot on the back, actually. Again, tonight is kind of a quick overview of the muscle groups of the body because to get you ready for the quiz coming up. Paired erector spinae muscles. So we're dealing with symmetry. We look at this guy here. These are your also known as intrinsic back muscles. When we're looking at the yin diagram, the body diagram, I don't know what page that's on right now. I think it's like here in these pages. Uh, Page 61 in the manual. I have it the simplified segments of the body for yin. So please keep in your mind, even though in the curriculum I have many things divided, this is yin, this is hatha, just remember that your overall arching knowledge of everything is going to blur and overlap. So it's useful because yin is so heavily anatomy detailed. That's why I put the hatha poses because they're actually more easy to teach. Um, they're more easy to teach because you need less anatomy. Yin is more even though it seems like yin is less, it's actually more detailed. So we have this simplified segments of the body diagram for yin yoga, but you can start to use it as your overall picture painting of the body. It's really easy to understand. So when I'm looking at the circle, and I'm on page 61 in the manual, I'm looking at the circle. It's got the two little green squares on the top. That's the abdominals. So it's as if I'm looking at a torso cut through from the vision from the top. The little blue moons, those are your obliques, those side muscles we were looking at. And then the blue pentagon in the back, that's your spine. And the two little red circles, excuse me, are erector spinae. So running up each side of the spine. These guys are constantly also overstretched from our round posture, and they also hold the head. If you go to where your skull and your neck meet, and those two kind of bulbs on the back of your spine, that's where some erector spinae meets, and they're a lot of time inflamed and a lot of time, yeah, irritated or over tight. So just giving yourself a little massage in this area a couple times throughout the day is super nice, super helpful. But again, the problem will go down from stemming from a lower place. Ways we can stretch this area is, of course, our standing forward folds, any of them, all of them. This series, inhale up, exhale, go down with a flat back, or curl up and then curl back down. So curl back down would be a little more pacifying. Excuse me. And hanging out, standing forward fold, wide leg forward fold. A five-pointed star, we'll put it in, it's an erect position and an extension position. Warrior, anytime we're upward, we're strengthening, and anytime we're downward, we're pacifying or loosening. So again, looking for balances or imbalances or different places of the back, but just knowing that it connects from the very top of your skull, where the skull and the neck meet, all the way down into your tailbone, into that top, like even under the top of your butt cheeks. Like it goes like the top, there's more muscles that wrap the glutes, and we're going to get to those right now. But these go down under it, and then there's like ones that wrap for our juicy, our juicy look. I'll bring those up next, actually. Let's see if it comes up if I just say glutes. Yeah, cool. Glutes. Very important. Alrighty. How do I make this bigger? So there's glute med, glute minimus, medius, and maximus. How can I get this bigger? Maximus. All right, that's better. Here we go. So glute max. So from the other picture we were just looking at, the erector spinae came down the spine. They came down this, sorry, my cord from my headphone was just pinching. So erector spinae, oh, I have dust on my, I gotta get my cleaner to dust this. The intrinsic back muscles, they come down and they came all the way down into this area, okay? Here. This is a thing that I had. So, okay, they're all the way down here, just so you can see on top. And then, like connecting all the way down here. And then the glutes were on top of it. So you see in this photo how they're wrapping like this. So if you squeeze your glute, your butt cheek, that wrap and feel it squeezing upward to the top crest. When I say crest of the hip, we're talking, oh God, we're talking about this part right here. So you can put your hands on your hips and run them along the top crest of the hip. I'll show you on my body, my hip, and then putting my hand in the top crest of your hip and exploring that in there. So seeing, this is the view from the back, the posterior gluteal line. You'll never need to know that. A sacrum. It's its own independent bone, a vertebra that have been fused together. Oh no, that's a ligament. Oh, here's a good picture of thoracolumbar fascia. So now we go into glute medius under the glute max. So here we were up here. Where was it? Here. So see, glute max, glute med. So glute max, think about if I do warrior one and I step one leg back, my front leg, the front knee that's bent, if I did like little pulses, I go down and push up, I'm really squeezing that glute of my leg that's front and bent, and that's really stabilizing my position. If I go thinking about my glute med, think about if you're in table position and you do fire hydrant, which is like one leg out to the side, lifting your leg to the side. They call it like a dog peeing on a fire hydrant. Um, excuse me. Um, this cold is really it's really kicking my ass. But I love anatomy, so yalla Vina. So if I think of extension, my leg out to the side, the fire hydrant, like you're lifting your leg open to the side. Excuse me. That will be a contraction. and the side of the glute in the glute medius. Glute minimus is even more deeper still, and that could be when, well, I'll go into the next one to show you. Um, yeah, we don't need to go in the tensor TFL yet. Okay, good. So the glutes, they're layered. If you squeeze your butt and you feel your glute, it kind of like the muscle fibers contract from like the bottom up to the top. It's kind of like a grab. If you feel that, like if you engage your glutes, we'll do it in class so you can know what I mean exactly, but we'll squeeze and squeeze. So it's kind of like the from the bottom up. And that's how you get that like juicy peach shape. Um, Even deeper still, under glute max, under glute medius, under glute minimus is a little muscle called the piriformis. And this one can make your life really difficult. So have a look. It's here under the glutes. It's this tiny, tiny one. How can I feel this piriformis muscle? If I go into pigeon, if I go into figure four, this is one that I will surely stretch. How can I strengthen it? Again, with any leg rotation. So remember, we were talking about clenching the butt muscles and how it will turn the hips more open. Your rotation, when I rotate out, it's and my piriformis is a shortening in combination, in sequence with the glute muscles. So they're all working together. And just like we were going over the shoulder stuff and talking about like the deltoids being so superficial and firing, or we want to get the scalenes, we want to get the serratus anterior engaging that deeper quality of movement. So a lot of people have a chronically tight piriformis. Often the muscles of the glutes and hips are very imbalanced because we sit a lot in our day-to-day life. And they need to be stretched out, gidden, but then also strengthened quite a bit. Oh, the iliopsoas. So the psoas or the iliopsoas muscle, when people talk about muscle of the soul or your flight and fight muscle, this is the psoas or the iliopsoas. So PSOAS, the psoas muscle. So see, this connects to the back inner spine, the lumbar area of the back inner spine, and then crosses down the inside of our pelvic crest through the pelvic region and then down onto the insides of the femurs and even more down still through the threads of fascia. So see how this connects? This is a very, very deep muscle. So when we say the fight or flight muscle, if you were scared if someone's gonna like drive a car at you, I don't know what are they gonna do? Like attack you, and you go in the fetal position and curl and bring your knees towards your, fetal position. This is the muscle that will activate that position, that deep curl. So people in contemporary dance were using the psoas for the spiral, that deep spiral in the body when we're going like down, down. That cue that I had given you, eyes on the inside of your spine. So this is another great cue to be just very, very deep. These muscles that are very deep running through. How can I activate the psoas? You think even just like lifting your knee to your chest and having your abdominals stabilized and bringing that up will be a healthy way of engaging. How to stretch it would be any of my lunges. But also because it's a very deep muscle, maybe holding tension or memories or whatever individual issue it could have. Doing like shaking. Often, if we do a lot of thigh work, we can experience our thighs, inner thighs shaking or spasming. And so you'll have to do a little somatic programming with that, of putting yourself in a supported position, kind of yin, kind of restorative, like having maybe laying on your back with the knees open, feet together, knees open, like my feet and my legs are making a diamond shape. And then the knees are supported on cushions or blocks and open. And you may find just in that position, it's a very vulnerable position, just laying with your knees away from one another, open in this diamond shape. You might experience shaking through the hips or the inner thigh. And a way to kind of coach the body through this is just like having your hands on your body while you're breathing and telling yourself that you're fine, that you're safe, reinforcing that you're safe so that the body um, can release. And then slowly the shaking will kind of die down, that you just kind of let it happen and you reprogram yourself and lengthen the psoas by just being like, yo, I'm fine, it's good, be warm, be cozy, but there's a lot of like reprogramming through the body. If the psoas is super tight, it's going to take that if it's super tight here, contracting, it's going to take the pelvis and curve it more, not under, but kind of splay it out, open a little bit. And it's just like very destabilizing. So a lot of what happens when you experience the fight or flight, it's actually that contraction feeling of like, anyway, wanting to curl the body into a little ball. Into a little ball. So now we're moving kind of down the body, the adductors. So there's abductors and adductors. A little way to remember them in anatomy is adductors. You can think of bringing the legs together, like addition. And abductors, think of like abducting. I'm taking away. So that's kind of how I try to remember it that way. Um, so the hip adductors, or also your inner thigh, it's very gnarly in there. It's super gnarly in there. Where was that? If I go back on page 61 for the simplified segments of the body diagram for Yin Yoga, I have the circled now on the right side of the page. I have the cross section of the human thigh. So if we're looking at this cross section, it would be our right thigh looking down. The circle in the middle is the bone. The pie, and it's kind of cut like a pie, you see? The hamstrings would be the back, the adductors. There's a bunch of muscles inside of this, but as a group, they're going to call them adductors. And then we have quads and hip flexors. Anyway, we'll be using this diagram tonight in our yin practice coming up here soon. And then the LT band, that little crescent moon on the outside of the shape. That actually, again, remember we started the class saying running the hand up the IT band and into the glute. That crescent is that area of the body. So that's generally how I think of breaking up the muscles of the thigh in yin, but also just when I'm doing my own practice. So that way I don't have to kind of remember all of the muscle groups. I mean, you will get to know it anyway, but this just kind of divides it when I'm thinking of strengthening or stretching because you're not going to isolate it so finely that you're going to be like, now I'm doing just this one muscle. You know what I mean? It's going to be all of the groups working together. So adductors, you can think of like when we heel toe our legs together, we were standing in five-pointed star, and then it's the muscles on the inner thigh. Heel toe the legs together, like we're doing our rotation. If we're anytime, if we were yeah, anytime that the legs have to come in together, they will be working. You can think about more in your warm-ups, the adductors working. And then there's a series of just calisthenic exercises that are better for activating that. Sometimes students, if they start doing yoga in an older time, like over 35, and maybe if they weren't dancers, if they weren't training their body, a lot of places in the body have atrophied or they just haven't had enough action. And this is definitely one of the parts of the body that doesn't get balanced as well because it requires moving the legs a lot in all directions. A lot of people, the only directions they move their leg is like front and back, and barely if they're walking, you know what I mean? So the adductors and adductors and abductors to get those with like this nice contraction happening balanced. It does take a little more than yoga, I would recommend. Going into like circular joint warm up and then going into some different calisthenics that are just specifically for that muscle group to help people feel. So that's another, if you're doing your class focused on a particular body part, like you could do your yoga if you're doing a few classes a week, oh, I'm going to do upper body focus class, or I'm going to do a lower body, or I'm going to do full body, which is, your choice, or I'm going to do back focused, or focus on the legs, or, you can have that where during your warm up time, you can take a little extra time and be like, okay, we're going to activate this area and make a picture for your mental image or your mind's eye image, however you use to communicate that. We're going to do some exercises to activate, to contract and like stimulate, and also stretch before we go into our yoga poses. So that's completely cool to do also. Like your warm up can go long. It could go like 10 to 20 minutes of your class. But it's still with the breath, you're still doing yogic elements. But in order to like really, what's the word I want? My words are not coming to me so smooth tonight, but thank God for notes. So like how to say, yeah, to I guess bring a greater awareness to this area of the body, but the inner thigh is definitely, definitely one that requires a little more awareness than not. Hamstring. Hamstrings is probably like the most casual. Posterior thigh muscles, the back. So from our little yin yoga diagram on page 61 is the little back partial quadrant. So in this picture here, it's a nicely rounded glute. And so if we look at the shape behind the muscle, it's another bicep muscle actually. So if we think of our muscle up here, our arm bicep, it's the same. If I here I put my leg off. If I bend my knee backwards, it's gonna do your bicep femoris, which is the back of the leg bicep, which is the same as doing this. So this hamstring, these ones get really, 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 really tight, and it's very possible if people don't focus and stretch. I constantly will cue you to focus your stretch in the belly of the muscle or the deeper area of the muscle. And the reason for that is that we see the little insertion points and the connecting points. If we stretch too close to the connecting point over time, you can just pop and have it just come off. That's a common injury, especially, thank God we don't live in a cold climate, but that is definitely something that can happen, or it just gets a little bit of like bruising and wear and tear around this point. So we want to try always to keep our stretch and keep the strength, the contraction, the work in the more dense part of the muscle and not where they're connecting. When we get into yin style, that's when we kind of focus more on connective tissues like that. But as far as hatha stuff goes, we really, really want to be careful. And so some different cues to avoid any injury in this area is in a forward bend, as an example. If I do standing forward bend, I will inhale up, exhale, fold, bring my hands down my knees. And then, when I'm like, oh, if it's too tight with the straight legs, bend your knee a little bit. So if you go into forward fold and you push your legs back straight, like, okay, they're super straight. And then I'm like, ooh, it's just so tight. Like, what if it's so tight on the back of your knee? Then bend it a little bit and take the stretch more into the belly of the muscle. You might find also like a prep before a standing forward bend in your warm up would be the leg strap exercises. So being on your back, laying on your back and extending one leg up and taking the strap in the foot. And then you don't need to straighten the leg all the way. So I'm going to just have my leg bent and I can be just opening slowly through the belly of the muscle. Remember, we're looking at all these muscles and they're all threads and they're all fascia and they're all stacked on top of each other. So if I'm having imbalances or I'm trying to like work into this one particular place, I might have to open first one place before I can get more deep, you know? So always think it's if I'm not going, I can't get to that muscle group exactly yet. Like once you form your mind's eye picture, it's okay because with repetition and consistency, more than doing like, I mean, maybe one day you wake up in the middle of the night and you're like, I'm going to work on my flexibility. And you and then you just rage and stretch too much in the middle in one night, you know, and you do that just like once a week. Like if you you're just gonna like rage and then you'll injure yourself. So working if you're trying to make flexibility or opening gains, it's better to have like 10-minute, 15-minute sessions every day than like one hour session every few days. You know what I'm saying? So just like think about take it to the most simple base level. Just think about like how stuff works. You know, if I'm just like kind of massaging every day a little bit, it's gonna like slowly over time. It's the best way if you're working on gains is like slowly, shwaya, shwaya. Um, adductors, hamstrings. So in the list on page 55, they have a few of them anyway. We're not going to zoom in on the muscles too much today. We're just, again, major muscle groups. Quadriceps, that is the front of the thigh, and they are so hard to get safely. Why is that? So here we are, quadricep femoris muscle known as the quad. Why? We have biceps, triceps, quadriceps. So it's a package of quad of four muscles. It's very difficult to stretch and strengthen also, to be honest. It's kind of like, and it can really mess up your whole alignment. So if I have my pull my knee into my bottom, I have like I'm sitting on my chair, but I have one leg hanging off. Or like if I take my knee like this, it's gonna stretch along the front of the thigh. What the problem is a lot of people can't bring their heel towards their butt without feeling a strong pressure in the knee or without feeling a strong pull in the knee. So we had our deer pose in yin or yeah, the half deer pose or the mermaid pose, I should say, in yin. Well, we'll do it in the practice here coming up soon. And bringing any time that you step the leg back, like warrior one as an example, I could bypass the quad and just be focused in the joint of the hip. You know how we were experimenting sliding the pelvis forward when we're in our lunge? If I squeeze my butt a little more, it's gonna like open that place on the front of my hip here. And I don't need to, if I lunge super deep, I can just kind of bypass the quad. So if I'm like this, and I have one thigh here and sorry, I'll do it on this side. So I'm bringing my hip forward. I can really just focus here on the stretch and the crease of my hip. I can also just focus, I can like lunge super. Here, I gotta take my leg to the front. So I can lunge and this leg's behind me. And I can just be in my hip, not even in there at all, or I can get into my hip. So again, it depends where I place my force in my lunge. And so again, reminding ourselves to be in the belly of the muscle, not too much up in the hip, the ball of the hip, because that's not actually doing anything. Well, you might be doing something, but beware of popping this ball and socket out. You could just be pushing, like putting the ball, like pushing the bone into the bone is the sensation that you could feel versus stretching down in the belly of the muscle. So we have a few different variations for that. And even throughout yoga classes that I've taught over the years, that's always been like, how can I stretch more there? people who have limited range of motion to put themselves in that position because it's a technically a back bend to get into that position. So some different hacks have included um, lying in your bed with one leg hanging off the bed and letting it soft open and like kind of taking your arms and like being like, okay, body open and opening through the hip, opening through the front of the leg. Because for most of the general public, they don't know where any of their body is. You are going to be like, now stretch your quad. And they're like, so you can be like, stretch your quad and like put your hands to that area of the body. And how can we do that? And like I said, I'm a very like manual teacher, handsy teacher. I like that a lot. Not to like perv out or anything, there's a difference when teachers are perving there, and I've been in that position before too, unfortunately. Um, and of course, like making sure your students, but it's very helpful, or getting them to put their hands on their own body while they're getting to know the different muscle groups, or be like, okay, in this pose today, warrior, as an example, the leg that's front, the 90-degree bend leg in the front, the muscle is going to be working, the quad and the hamstrings. They're really the front thigh is super engaged, okay? So you can be like, okay, feel the weight and feel the hold between your quadriceps, front of the thigh, slap, slap, pat, pat, and your back of your thigh, your hamstrings stabilizing and engaging, so giving them just little cues like that. Like I said, it's not like you have to get out a diagram and be like, these are all the muscles to your students. They won't come to class. There's not well, unless you do an anatomy lab, but it's not why they're coming to class. But you are there to kind of like, yeah, teach them this in a sneaky way because they didn't come for an anatomy class, but at the same time, they need to know where their body parts are. So, I mean, it's coming a little more, just in the general population, I hope. It's really important, I think people are seeing to have some body awareness. So the gastrocs, this is the gastrocnemius is our calf muscle. It's a large muscle located in the posterior leg. And it's also, again, superficial. So your calf muscle, that's like when you stand up on the balls of your feet and you get your heels, and your calves like get contracted. It's these two. It's a very similar look to the bicep. So yeah, people will say their calves or their gastrocs. A lot of these terms are the same term. Soleus. Very cool. Front of the leg muscle. The soleus muscle is the wide, flat leg muscle. So just below the knee to the heel. So here under it. So more deep. More deep. What's going on this is the back of the knee. And then from the back. Anyway, so that's even more below. It's so weird looking. Um, just the picture. Tibialis anterior, so coming to the front. That one's a little easier to see. So, okay, the toes are pointing at us in this picture. So when you get like that the shin muscle, the shin splint, if I have my hand on my lower leg and I flex my toes towards me, this guy right there, you feel him? And then if I point my toes, like I have a carpet, a rug under my feet here, and I'm gonna put my toes like this, like the top of my toe down, and like I'm stretching the front of my foot and ankle, and you can also get a bit of a gnarly stretch in there if your ankle is like already not too tight. You can kind of get through there. Also, I'll do my other side. Yeah, alarming. And then flexing the toes again and kind of feeling that side. So this one can get very salty, or when you get like shin splints or those cramps at night that you can get if you point your toes and you didn't have enough magnesium, you know what I mean? Like when you sometimes you like stretch at in the when you're sleeping at night and your toes like get locked. It's usually this guy. Again, this one help is loves manual massage. You can roll like your lacrosse ball along it, open it up, or even just massage it with your hand. It can be quite nice. And it's very similar to like the chest area, that it's really hard to get this area stimulated on its own. So sometimes some like massage helps a lot. Toe flexors, toe extensors. We'll be doing a module on the hands and the foot, so don't worry too much about that. And again, you're going to say hands and foot, carpal, metacarpals, tarsals, metatarsals, um, carpals on the wrists and hand, and tarsals in the foot and ankle. And then the last one for today is peroneus longus. And this one kind of runs along the outside of the leg of the calf. If you kind of go down and anyway, along the outside and just there's like a little, yeah, kind of see the crest of the outside of your leg. And it runs down along the outside of the leg. So this one can also be a stabilizer. If you're running and you roll your ankle, you can overstretch that or make that weak a little bit there. This area is also very difficult to stretch and strengthen the body. If I have my leg out straight and in front of me, I have my sole of my foot just looking straight from my leg. If I feel like I want to rotate my foot a little bit externally, that's going to be that outside muscle engage. And if I roll the sole of my foot inward towards my axial line, rotate in, that will be a stretch for it. This was one when we did the strap exercises. So if I had my leg up with the strap and then I rotated my foot inward, I could really stretch along the outside of the peroneus longus. Here, I'll do this side. So here my foot is straight. Then I rotate it in. So I turned it a little bit and rotated. Peroneus longus, stretching. And if I want to strengthen it, it's the opposite. So it's little rotations, rotations, rotations that way. But to stretch it, it's when I have my leg in the strap or in my hand like this, and it's along the outside here, and rotate the sole of the foot inward to stretch the peroneus longus. It's one that gets not as much attention as it should. Another way to stretch it is when we're standing five-pointed star or wide leg forward fold rather, but the five-pointed star foot position, same foot position. And then I turn my toes inward slightly. And so that will stretch that outside, the peroneus longus, that outside of you'll see, it's gnarly when you get in there. You're like, oh, dang, I really didn't go in there for a while. And then you can see more wrapping muscles again. And it would be again under the category of the lower limbs, when we were in the general body category. And then it would also just be in the lower leg category. So it's not the thigh, it's the calf and the lower leg. So the calf and the shin, and those are like the layman's terms for it. And that. So So part of homework will be we won't do the bones today, Will, because I want to get to the practice and I wanted to cover all of those. So let's move bones to next week, but it doesn't mean, or to Saturday. It's kind of next week. It doesn't mean that you don't look at it on your own time. Again, you can always read as much as you want, but to keep your attention focused, I will always give you some point form stuff to do. So familiarize yourselves with, was it page 66? The segments of the 61, sorry. The segments, simplified segments of the body diagram for yin. You'll use this forever. I still use it all the time for teaching, for explaining. I use it all the time. And sometimes I just look at it for a quick reference for myself. And it's how I think about doing my own conditioning, doing my own work for my own body. I treat it as a checklist, and I use this as the vision of how I see my body. So get to know that, get to use it. I had one when I was a teacher. I would print it out for students to have for workshop. Just sometimes people like to have some. I had a laminated one just so I could remember. When you have this, when I was teaching just yin classes, I didn't even need to make, and this was again, I've been teaching for many years by this point, but I didn't even make a class plan every time if I knew this, because I would just simply go through the segments of the body and I knew the repertoire. So again, just familiarize yourself with that. Um, from the page 55, 56, the function of the muscle, just have a look at that, the types of contraction. Skeletal variation, we've spoken on this and we'll speak on it again. Skeletal variation is why we do sensation-based alignment, because maybe when we do, there was this example, if we open the arm and the bone on bone comes together, but some people, they can open their arm and they have more of a hinge. It's just because of their skeletal variation. Also, one hip could be a different size, so that's why one hip I do figure four and one hip I do pigeon for my stretches. So again, skeletal variation, just we're living, breathing, different beings. So yeah, get to know that concept. The exercise on page 59, we'll do it together when we meet, not this weekend, but the next weekend. Major muscles of the body. Wait, there was so then on page 62, there is fascia and myofascial system. I want you, for part of your homework, read that little page. And then I want you to find a video on YouTube that you feel like is a good explanation video. So if you had a class of people and you had to explain fascia and myofascial systems to them, I want you to find a video that you find interesting and share it in the WhatsApp group before Saturday, please. And then review what we did today, which was the major muscle groups and the regions of the body, which region of the body the muscle groups are in, and just get this to be a second information, because this is going to be something we repeat the whole time, which is why, like, anything that I'm covering in these early months of the training are concepts that you have to know. Like the ones that you super have to know, and that is going to make ease of your teaching. And it's not like a test you have to remember. It's going to be ones that you use again and again. So the more different ways you have to think about it, and the more, between my languaging and then turning it into your own words, because that's ideal, is that you take anything your teachers give you and you percolate it and turn it into your own words. Like, these are the concepts that are going to be repeated again and again and again in the training. Of course, like, there's a lot of like stuff we have to just cover because it's a training, but like what I'm repeating again and again is like how you're going to teach and how you're going to language. Um, can close this. I stop the share. So let's take 5, because I'm going to change my setup we'll get ready for yin practice. Did I stop the share? I think I did. Okay, 10 minutes. All right, so I'm going to pause.
your thing's still on mute, I think.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so coming into easy pose, easy seated pose. This can be in many ways. We're going to be in yin, so you can have a cushion or a bolster that you'll be sitting on. You can be sitting on your two blocks, or you can sit on a blanket. Usually now when we're in the colder weather, I like to always have a fleece blanket present with me when I'm doing yin. Of course, I won't be under the blanket for our practice, so you're able to see everything, but in my personal practice, that is definitely what I'm doing. So we'll start with the butterfly, the nest. Actually, I just have to get a timer. So find yourself into, I started in cross leg, and now I'm going to put my feet together in the butterfly position. Remember, I like to lift up my glutes, move them out of the way so I can feel stabilized. Your feet can be far from you or close, yogi's choice. And I'm going to put the blocks out on either side. If you can take your knees down, awesome, it's cool. But even if you can and you want to have a little more support there, can be like this, supported forward. Don't mind my blue socks, they're so ugly. So from this position, and I'll show you from the side also. So I'm here and I'm open, and then but my back's not like this or like this. I'm comfortable, and then I'm gonna hinge from the hip and come over, stretching through the groin. And then just letting the knees melt open to the side. So I'm gonna let myself come forward, not over rounding in the upper back, but like stretching through the groin. So come into this position and find your breathing. Bring it all in at the same time. I'll be right back with the timer. All right, so breathing in. I have to charge my timer. I have to do it the old-fashioned way, counting. So coming into this position and letting the body melt forward. I have my elbows on my inner thighs, on my knees, letting them press outward, just be outward and hanging forward. If you find you need to make any adjustments, go ahead. And we'll just sit and begin allowing the breath to lengthen on the inhale and allowing the breath to lengthen on the exhale. In this form, we're stretching the inner thighs and the erector spinae, the muscles that run from the base of the skull all the way down into the very, very bottom of the spine, down to your tailbone, down into the sacrum, down through the thoracolumbar fascia, and breathing, feeling the stretch as you inhale, and feeling the tissues yield to gravity and time as you exhale. So staying with our breath. Inhale and exhale. See if you can melt a little more, stretching along the iliac crests. So through the crests of the hips down into the glute. See if you can put the sensation to the image of the muscles that we just covered in the major muscle groups. Breathing in and breathing out. Long inhale. Filling up, pause at the top of your inhale, long exhale. See if you can melt a little deeper. We're gonna take 4 more breaths in this position. Long, slow. Breathe in. And again, inhale, stretching the back ribs. Exhale. Inhaling again, 2 more. And slowly on our next inhale, I'm gonna press my hands into the floor and slowly roll up. Walk myself back slowly, slowly, slowly. Feel that rebound from being in the yin position, and then let your head come up and just sit and feel. Don't take any counter stretches, just allow. In yin, we call it the rebound, the feeling of the elastic tissues and the plastic tissues wanting to kind of go back to their original shape, but allowing just space and tension and time to open through the body. So next we'll go into the half butterfly. I'll extend my right leg out to the side. My left leg is bent. And you have a couple of options here. Sometimes I take a block and I'll put it under my armpit. I'll bend to the side and I'll open up the side of the body, obliques, lats, on top of the iliac crest, the QL. If I want to get my quadratus lumborum or my QL a little more targeted, that small, tight, hyper tight muscle group of the low back that stretches into the top crests of the hips, I can rotate towards my extended leg and then bend my face towards my extended leg. At this time, I can put a block, or I can still get that area with a nice side bend if I go over to the side. And I can get the sternocleidomastoid, the SCM, and the scalenes if I lift and go up over to the side. This is one where I'll also take my arm behind and I just start breathing here. So I have a stretch on top of my back hip, on top of the hip. Through my ribs, it's not so extreme, and then I'm really targeting in the neck. So you can target any of these areas or all of them. You can lean back and find a different level of engagement, or lean forward and see what you find. It doesn't matter. You just find the line of tension that you want to work on. Maybe you're also stretching through the back of your extended leg. For me, I'm not, but if you're tight through the back of the leg. If you're not able to put the leg straight, it's totally okay. You can even have it bent, or if it doesn't straighten, you can even have a yoga block under it. You can even have a yoga block under it if it does, because it might support you in a new way for this. So we'll breathe. Let's breathe here. Focus on our next 4 breaths. Long inhale, long exhale. Really stretching the body from the inside out. Again, another 4. I'm really feeling this on top of the opposite hip. I lean back, I rotate my rib cage a little bit upward, a little bit of twist. I can get more of a stretch in my shoulder and neck. Again, find what's going on in your own body. Find your sensation-based alignment. And if we're looking at the segments of the body on the yin diagram, this is the little moons on either side of the oval cross section of the body. So now I'm going to focus another 4 breaths. I'm going to see if my body has yielded to gravity at all. I think it has. Let myself go a little deeper. So slowly, I'm going to take the block out. I'm going to let my torso roll towards my center. Very slowly. And then I'm going to press myself up to my center, slow, 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 and just take a few moments, a few breaths for integration. And then I'm slowly going to switch sides. So we want to stay very yin-like, very passive and melty. So I'll use my arms to help my legs. Extending your other leg. Bringing that knee in, decide if you need the support block under it. And then we'll be taking the same thing, the body over to the side, up and over, opening the neck. A small rotation, you might get more in the QL or the low back. So see what's going on for your body. I always like to start it with 1 block under. I don't like to go to my full stretch right away. I like to slowly ease into it as best as I can. So let's start with our first 4 breaths focused. For each one, we're doing about 12 to 16 breaths. So 3 or 4 packages of focusing on the breath for tonight. So finding your position. Breathing and opening. Finding that ideal alignment, the sensation-based alignment that works best for your body. So remember, when we're yinning out, it's very unaesthetic. Oh, excuse me, another 2 breaths here. So for me tonight, because I have congestion still and my lungs and my sinus are not great, my inhales and my exhales personally are like much shorter than they would be if I was feeling perfectly healthy in my lungs. Also, just because it's difficult for me to breathe fully through my nose, great. So my breath has been more shallow. So really try your best to extend. If you're in good health, inshallah, that you can extend and press through the ribs on your inhale and really maximize your stretch. So I'm going to just see if I yield it a little more and continue another focus of 3 to 4 breaths down a little further. Really breathing and expanding, feeling that stretch through the side of the body, through the QL, through the scalenes, the neck, the traps, rotating that shoulder under, changing the stretch, but doing everything slowly and mindfully. And just a couple more breaths for this side. And I'm slowly gonna just release my block and let my body circle towards the front, towards my center. Inhale and exhale here, and then slowly use your arms to press you up. Take your time. Rolling back onto your sitting bones, back onto your 4 points, and let yourself slowly come up. Inhale and exhale here. And now feeling both sides of the body, both sides of your spine, from top to bottom. Feel the shoulders, feel the traps, creating that mental image with all those body parts we saw highlighted in green today. And feeling how they blend and they overlap and they overlay each other. Next, we'll take our legs wide into the straddle sit. I like to start this one with my blocks front. And I'm just going to lean forward until I have tension on the inner thigh. And hold. I think my timer should be powered a little bit by now. I hope. 11%. It's not that good. Oh, wait. So this one I wanted the timer more because we hold it longer. So I'm still sitting on my blanket, and remember this one is the one I really want to like untuck my glutes, and I want to be kind of like rolling forward, like this is my glutes. It's like yeah, I want to roll them forward. My little helping hands, to bring, so I have the blanket really helping me for that. And then I also move the meat of my thigh, I rotate it behind. So it's like almost my leg is doing a little bit, I don't want to internally rotate, but like I'll move the fat in an internal rotation way. And then just go forward. And really stretching, you might be stretching along all of the inner legs, maybe along the back of the knee, maybe along the inner thighs. It's all good. If you can't straighten the legs and you have to have them bent while you work on that inner thigh, it's okay. You can have rolled up towels or blocks under the thighs as you like, and then work on the whole structure around the pelvis. So explore. But this is a gnarly area. Here, I got lots of blocks going on today. So I got blocks under the knees. Even though I can put my legs flat on the floor, it's cool. I'm actually getting like a better groin stretch like this with the legs bent. And then I'll just take myself front and relax and breathe. Yeah, my own self, I started a new like a conditioning program outside of yoga. So I've been doing like front and side splits conditioning. And so I'm open, but it's like now I'm getting into some like nitty gritty. So sometimes even if you have the ability to be open, it's better to like back it up and then work more deeply in some of those fibers. So yeah, my more upper groin is getting like a targeted stretch when I'm keeping the knees bent rather than just the backs of my legs. Because when I had the block out, it was really my backs of my knees and my calves were getting really stretched. And now with the blocks under my knees, they're not feeling stretched at all. It's really just my groin and my inner thigh. So that's what I want to work on now. Or I can change it at any time too. I'm going to do like 4 more breaths here and then I'll change the block and go deeper. So typically the straddle or the dragonfly, we call this one in our yin series. Typically, this one you can hold it for 4 to 6 minutes. I hold it a lot longer than the other ones because it is very gnarly in here and it takes a lot to stretch it open. So another 4 breaths in this position and then we'll change it subtly. So we'll do another 4 breaths here. I'm gonna take my blocks out from under my legs. You can stay in the position that you're in if it works for you, or see if you can get a little deeper, and we'll do another 4 long, slow inhales and exhales. And now another 4 breaths, wherever you are in your variation, long, slow breaths. And again, keeping your awareness with your breath, let's follow the breath, another 4. Inhale and exhale. And for 3, stretching through the back ribs. And for 2, really stretch those ribs on your inhale. Engage to the abdomen on the exhale. 2 more. And 1 more. Inhale, exhale. On your next inhale, begin to press your hands into the floor and slowly, slowly come up, like super slow-mo. I'm going to start pressing myself back onto my sits bones, taking the tension off of my inner thigh slowly, slowly, slowly. So we were just there for several minutes. So I don't want to just pop out of it. I want to just honor that time and with more time. So coming up to where there's less tension on my inner thigh, you can bring your hands to your adductors, inner thighs. I'm going to use my hands to bend my knees and bend my knees and bring my hands behind me. You can also have your blocks, and I'll just take my knees slowly side and side for some windshield wiper, just so I feel less pulled apart in all directions, less abducted. Side and side. So taking your time. So this is a great segue, this position. If I take my knees to one side and leave them, let's grab our blocks. This will be our first quadricep stretch, or front of the thigh. And we'll do like a modified mermaid. So if I had my knees going side to side, I just took them to one side and left them there. You might want to, if you have a blanket behind you, you might want to readjust. This is one that if your couch was behind you, you could have your arms back, like if I bring these big guys kind of behind me, I can lean back on them like that. Really, my goal is I don't need to go all the way to the ground. If you can, it's cool. But my goal is the quadricep, so through the front of the thigh. Remember we were talking about the belly of the muscles? We don't want to be too close in the knee with our sensation, and we don't want to be too far up in the hip. So I'm just going to find a stretch. I truly don't need to go back that far. I'm just going to get my blocks here. to help me, and I'm leaning back, I'm opening, and I'm squeezing my glute to open through the front of the thigh. So this one is considered a deer stretch, or like there's a progression of them for the quad opener series in your yin, and this is one of the starts, or the easy mermaid. So leaning back. And breathing, and again, move, squiggle around in slow motion, see how I can find how to open that part of the body. Can I get in there into the belly of the muscle, the belly of the quadricep? If you can lay back on the floor, straight back, cool. But again, it's not necessarily the objective. The objective is to stretch that quad. Breathing, let's focus for the next 4. Very slowly, I'm gonna push myself up, taking the tension off of that thigh. And then I'll take the tension off of the whole hip, that whole side, and lengthen that leg. Shake your knee a little bit. So after your quad stretches, you want to feel for, what's the word I want to use? Not weakness, but it does feel sometimes after, even if you were in the belly of the muscle, like a vulnerability about the knee. So you just want to kind of take care of it a little bit, and even just putting your hands there can help it feel better. Let's take the leg side to side for some windshield wipers again. And always breathing. And then I'll take my knees over to the other side that I didn't do. Then I get my blocks and my cushions, whatever I have. If I'm, or like I said, if you're in front of your couch, you can lean back. The main thing is finding that line of tension for yourself. And really leaning back and engaging the glute and finding your tension for today. Applying stress in the quadricep muscle group segment of the body. Breathing. And now for the next 4 breaths, focus. Stay with your breath. If you take it all the way back, you can extend your upper body up and get a little bit of opening, arching through the upper body. But remember that the primary reason we're here is the quad. So really targeting that segment of the body. Breathing in, expanding through the chest and belly. Breathing out, contracting, feeling our strength. And again. So very slowly, if you're back, you can kind of roll out of it onto your side. But if you're in a position like I am, not too far down, I just come up, engage my abs, use my arms to help myself back up. Slowly taking any tension off that leg or hip, and then allowing the leg to straighten. And just kind of like shake it out a little bit, turn it out. It's easy. And then coming back up to the seated position, and we windshield wiper the legs again. So then I just kind of neutralize the movement, getting my hips, taking our legs side to side and side to side. Very good. So next we will move into IT band or outside and glute stretch. So we have two options for this. You can do the figure 4 option, which is lying on your back with one ankle crossed across, and then bringing up. You can have your blocks under your foot and pushing. You can have your foot on a chair or a couch. You can have your foot against the wall. It's really nice. So figure 4, stretching that IT band, or pigeon, or in yin we call pigeon sleeping swan is the vocab. Same pose, different name. Where you could start in your table pose. I like to use blocks, and I'll bring one knee towards the front, slide one leg back, and then rotating, turning one knee out. If I do it to the front for you to see, and like this, I bring a knee to the front, and then I bring my shin bone towards the front of my mat until I get this stretch on the outside. So whatever one gets the outside more. Some days I'm feeling more pigeony or sleeping swanny. Some days I'm feeling more figure 4. I think I'm feeling more figure 4 today, to be honest. It was feeling more effective. So I'm going to come into that figure 4 position, but you take whatever position that you like, whatever one's effective. And I'm even going to take my super block pile today. Is it this one? This one? Yeah. And find my nice figure 4. Actually gonna bring it in and ooh la la and stretch. So focusing on the first 4 breaths. And so I'm pulling my knee, and then I'm actually pushing this other knee away. I'm pulling the leg that's bent, and then my leg, the ankle that's crossed, I'm pushing this knee away for a little resistance. And man, is it ever resistant. So I'm holding here, breathing. And another 4 breaths. Let's stay with it. You can add a little gentle micro rocking movements, very gentle. Another 4, 3, 2, and one more inhale, one more exhale. And slowly, if you're in the figure 4, I'm gonna take my foot and help it turn. If I'm in pigeon, you're gonna just like roll off of it and take the resistance down. So here I'll just move the leg a little bit and then extend my leg along the floor. Breathe. And then bending both knees and getting ready for the other side. So you can decide if you're gonna do, I'm gonna do the same for both sides today. So remember you have the option for pigeon or a figure four. I'm crossing the opposite ankle over the opposite knee. I'm adding resistance to the knee that's folded in, and also I'm bringing the knee that's bent towards me with the one with the ankle cross, pushing it away. You'll feel that tension running into the glute. This is a really great one for that little muscle inside, deep inside under the gluteus group, the three medius maximus minimus. That the piriformis is that little short one. We can get a nice stretch. Going deep inside the layers of the glute. There's a lot. And I'm adding little micro movements. Let's stay present for the next 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep breathing. Another 4. So keeping the awareness with the breath. The feeling as the breath enters the nostrils. Inhaling, expanding. Pause. Squeeze as you exhale. Pressing your back into the floor even more. Inhale, expanding through the torso, ribs, chest. Inhale, hold, stretch. Exhale, belly squeezes, bottom of the ribs squeeze, squeezing that air out. And again. And another 2 breaths in this position. And slowly release, taking the tension off of that line. Slowly lengthening that leg along the floor. And then just holding, resting this way. Both legs along the floor, and then just rotating the feet in and out. So I'm gonna press into the floor behind me, come up, and come to seated with my legs extended in front of me. So this is called caterpillar in hatha yoga. It's just seated forward fold. Where we're actually very active. I'm gonna do the same setup, move my cheeks, press my legs into the floor. And then here, I'm gonna extend up and then kind of come over and just melt. Might be in the backs of your legs, but probably mostly through erector spinae. I find that I personally always need that lift. Sitting flush on the ground is easy for me. Or I wouldn't even say easy, it just is, I'm already shaped like that. So for me to get more of that lift and that roll forward, I'll put the blanket under and I'll move my cheeks. And then I'll just come down. So here I'm really stretching through the thoracolumbar, especially through the lumbar. And I'm gonna just come down a little bit, put the blocks in a way that works. Rest my head down and same thing, rest. We'll focus on the first 4 breaths before making any changes. I'm gonna see if my body's yielded in those 4 breaths, if I can go a little deeper. And another 4, stretch. And keep breathing. You can stay where you are. See if you're able to melt a little more further forward. It's okay if you don't also, but just notice when we can let time and gravity assist the body. I'm not trying to force myself down. I'm just melting into it. And another 4 breaths here. Really melted. And acknowledge the effects of the forward fold. The other day in the physiology module, we were talking about how extension and folding, how they have different feelings. One is pacifying, comforting, melting. And then if we bend back, upward fold, back bends, it's more invigorating, fearful. So just notice this pacifying quality. And then I'm gonna bring my hands down beside my body and slowly, slowly, slowly start to roll myself up. Let the body guide you. Slow, slow, slow. And slowly coming and sitting all the way up. So now I'm gonna move my blocks and everything to the side. My blanket also. We're going to go into first supported bridge, which you can use 1 or 2 blocks. So bridge pose, we're doing it on our back. So I come onto my back. Press my back into the floor, press my hips into the floor. So for supported bridge, I can take 1 block, I can put it under my hips for my sacrum. And if you have 2 blocks with you today, you can try lifting up a little higher and putting a 2nd block. If you find that this is, and then I kind of wiggle back a bit. If you find it's not relaxing to have the 2nd block, don't worry about it, but try just the 1. But try it today with a 2nd block. And I kind of want to move my meat of my butt downward, downward. So even my blocks feel like they're tilting a little bit this way. So supported bridge, we're gonna take 4 breaths here. Let your arms fall wherever they fall. Actually, there, I'm gonna bring my blanket for a little bit of support for my neck. But breathing in the supported bridge. And then slowly, I'm gonna lengthen one of my legs along the floor. You're gonna feel a super lengthen in the front of the thigh or the quad. Other foot stays on the floor for balance. This is another super great quad area opener. It's technically still under the family supported bridge, but it's a little another way to put our body in this shape. So when we were talking about the quads earlier, in the major muscle groups section, when I was saying you can lay on the bed and let one leg dangle off the bed for the quad stretch, it's kind of like the same shape. 2 more breaths. Slowly, I'm gonna engage my leg, but also help it with my hand, bring it in. And then extend the other leg slowly, slowly. So 4 breaths, 4 to 6 on the other side. And then slowly, with some support from the other hand, bringing the leg up. Here, if it's okay for your low back, it might cause a lot of compression. You can slide both legs open, and this is a supported bridge opening through the front of the pelvis, but it's really putting a lot of pressure on the lumbar, where the sacrum and the spine meet. You can have your hands overhead for counterbalance, but only if it doesn't cause you stress. This is a great way to open through the front of the body. I have like a super back bend happening, but I'm passive. It's not even active. It's like I will drape my body in this position. It's just stretching open. And 4 more breaths of this position. And now engaging through the abs, I'm gonna pull my legs back in. Feel your hamstrings. Abducting your legs towards you. And then I'm gonna bring one knee at a time, this up, and then the other one just up. If you have 1 or 2 blocks, let's take our time and remove them. I'm gonna press my feet into the ground, lift my hips off the blocks, bridge. And then roll 1 vertebrae at a time, down, 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 tail coming last. I turn my tail, really scooped and flatten my low back, bringing it down. Both knees come into chest, small clock circles. So thinking of the sacrum as your clock. So feel that spaciousness in the sacrum now after doing that supported bridge. Then move all my blocks and everything out of the way. The circle, this low back. Breathing, of course, the whole time. Forever and always. I'm gonna take 1 block and bring it over to the side and then just have another one, just in case. So I'm gonna bring my feet to the floor and put a block between my knees and take my knees over to one side. If you feel like you want more of a stretch, take the block out and take the knee across. Breathe 4 breaths here. You can take the leg and twist them together. It's hard to tell on the video, but knee down twist in yin, we call it twisted tree roots. We do a twist with the leg, really opening through the side waist a little more, breathing. So through the lats, through the transverse abdominis, through the internal and external obliques, down into the outside of your adductors, your also IT band, and the outside wrapping of the quad, and the glutes, of course, opening in this knee down twist, or in twisted tree roots. Four more breaths. And two more. And now very slowly, bring your knees back towards the center line. I have to press my feet into the floor to adjust my back, centralize myself, stabilize. And then if it's there and you want the blocks, taking your knees to one side and then one block can be between the knees. Or if you don't need it and you want to go a bit further, you can. Bringing that leg across the body. And then here you can see a little better on this side. When I take my leg at the top and I twist it under, and then I go under, this is the twisted tree root, and breathe. So again, opening through that side of the body, this other side body here. You can take the arm up for even more of an opening. Thinking of all those major muscle groups you can feel through the pec, through the lats, through the external obliques, maybe even a little bit of your QL, your intrinsic back muscles. Feel that extension in the upper body and stretching, passive extension. And breathing into it. And now focusing the next 4 breaths. And so very slowly, inhale and exhale, you can begin to unwind your roots. And bringing the legs, stabilizing through the abs, bringing the legs back to center. And knees to chest. Let's take some final clock circles. So before Shavasana, we'll do one more supported position, one more supported form. We'll do supported fish. So supported fish is with the block under the bra strap area. We're just giving you this lift in the upper back. You can have a cushion or a block behind your head, but really we want this opening through the chest. You can have your arms down or up, whatever feels good. And breathe and enjoy this heart opener in a supported way. So again, it's the feeling of extension and expansion, but it's passive, so it's very nice. Be sure that you have the block in the most ideal and comfortable position. You might take a few tries to like settle in and try, see if it's a good position for you. And staying with the rise and the fall of the belly. And for the next 4 breaths, staying with the breath, I have my knees bent. Now I'm going to extend my leg along the floor for these next 4 breaths. Stretching the ribs from all sides, feeling the block pressing into your back ribs, opening through the thoracic spine. And now I'm going to take the block out. I just roll to the side, take it out. And I'll come into Shavasana. So now if you'd like to cover yourself with the blanket, have your knees bent, have your legs straight. I'm gonna come up into a seated position with my blanket. So I don't fall asleep in Shavasana because I have to stay here. So coming into a fully relaxed, released position. If you have another layer, a blanket or socks, now is a great time to put it on. We're definitely getting into like a slightly colder time of the year. It was really inside the buildings in Egypt is so cold now. So a little sigh, let yourself melt into the floor. We open through the lower trunk of the body, through the quads, the front, side, back of all the thigh also. And just let your body melt into the floor, feeling your breath enter in through the nose and out through the mouth or the nose. Or if you're not able to breathe so well through your nose tonight, breathe through your mouth. I have some breaths for myself tonight that are fine through the nose and then not so fine. So just stay breathing, do what we can. And just feeling your body from top to bottom, bottom to top, however it is that you make the visual, especially where we had the muscle module just before our practice. That's a really great way to integrate your knowledge and like really try to feel those different muscle groups as we apply stress to them. And thinking of your personal practices this way as you continue with your own personal time, your own personal practice. Really building that visual. Because when you go into the pose and you instruct your students how to get into the pose or the form, it's not like you have to refer to notes. You're like doing the mental checklist as you feel it, as you see it in your mind's eye. So really develop this skill. It will not only enhance your teaching Giden, but it will enhance your private practice and how you just see the body, not just in your practice, but just having the body. And so picturing the work and the space that we created in the body this evening by applying stress, these lines of stress, to the binds that we have in our body, to these adhesions in our tissues that limit our range of motion. Range of motion can also be seen as expansion of full potential, our full potential of movement and freedom. So working within this, creating this vision, inner vision of our body, our muscles, our fibers that we live inside, this body that we live in. Just moving with your image, picturing the fluids, the lymphatic, the muscles overlapping each other, and how we created a little space, brought a little oxygen, moved any stagnant areas in the body, brought a little more life, prana, blood, lymph into an area that maybe wasn't activated or opened in a while. And staying with the breath. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth. And in through the nose and out through the mouth. And staying present with your breath for the next 4. Not feeling the need to control or restrain the breath in any way, just allow it to happen as it happens. And feel the rise of the expansion of the ribs. And a little sigh, the air leaves. Inflating the body, deflating the body on the exhale. Another 4. And so on our next inhale, bring a little bit of movement to the body. Reach through your fingers, reach through your toes, give them a little wiggle. Tilting your head side to side even. On our next inhale, you can take yourself into full body stretch. Exhale, relax into the floor. And I'll roll over to one side and use my arms, go slow, and press myself into the floor, coming up to sitting. Take your time. So from this point, you can go into a meditation practice. The body's really easy to sit. After your yin practice and your hip openers, it's easy for the body to sit, I should say, a little more comfortably with your supports, whatever. But here we'll close our practice at our today's session. So sitting up nice and tall, breathing in, breathing out. We can take our arms out to either side. And we'll inhale the arms up and palms together. Exhale, hands to the heart. And just sit in gratitude for a moment. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your patience with this congestion I have going on. And namaste. Shukran, thank you. And like I said, you can take this time, sit for meditation, You can take this time, you can go back deeper in your practice, you can take this time and go be in the bathtub, which is what I'm gonna do. And go forward for this. And I'll stop the recording. Stop.